Oh boy, Christopher Nolan. The man is just a genius, and I know that he's every bro's favorite director, but he definitely lives up to that title. He's definitely shown time and time again that he deserves the title of the bro director. This guy makes the bro movie of the year every time he drops something, just without fail. I'm sure all the frat bros all around the world are thankful for Christopher Nolan giving them yet another movie that they can reference when talking to people. I'm definitely going to talk about it to a few people, not quite to the extent that I think some others are going to be. But we'll talk about that first. Let's start off once again with who should go see this movie. Now, I think if you're a Nolan fan, obviously you're going to go see this. I think if you're really into outstanding imagery, if you're a fan of the beautiful shot, you're going to be right at home here. You'll love most of these shot compositions. It's just a very visually pleasing film to watch. I can already see the jokes coming, calling this the men talking, the 3 hour cut. If you're a fan of good dialogue and the way that it gives you insight into each of the characters, again, this will be one where you feel right at home. Those people that are able to sit, because this is a 3 hour movie, trust me, you will feel every minute of each hour. You'll feel right at home. And that's the third time I've said that, so I'm going to go ahead and ban myself from saying that for the rest of the video. But moving on, I'm gonna start this one off with criticisms, weirdly enough, because there is the glaring one that comes out of my head. In recent years, we've seen more and more movies, at least from Hollywood, come out in this 3 hour format, or in the rare case of the 4 hour movie, which I don't have a problem with. I think if you can justify the length of your movie, then by all means, go for it. But that therein lies the problem. I think is that you have to justify the length of your movie. I think at sometimes maybe a little bit more needs to be left on the cutting room floor because we're gonna, I don't want to say feel bored, but at one point or another, you might risk having some people check out. For example, I went to go watch this with my girlfriend and my sister, and they were having trouble keeping up because some things happened in the beginning that were referenced as the movies went on. And because the distance between the beginning and the middle and the end were so far apart that you kind of have to, like I was talking about in Dead Reckoning, you had to do the snap your fingers thing, and you don't want to be snapping your fingers when you're trying to enjoy the movie, especially a Christopher Nolan movie where the dialogue, when it's time to talk, you need to listen. You need to hear everything. Otherwise, if you miss even a syllable, you could be way too confused to follow a later scene. I will say that the length of this movie is definitely justified. It's three distinct acts, very easy to distinguish between the three of them. But I do think that there's some stuff that I could have done without. I understand the purpose of everything that happens. I know he's Nolan, but at some point somebody's got to tell him no. Enough is enough. The main reason that I wanted to start off with that criticism is because it's really the only one that I have, because everything else about this movie is amazing. This is pretty much the release of the summer. I think this is probably one of, if not the most anticipated movies to come out this year, and it doesn't disappoint. It's very very good. Everything about this is very well put together. I will say you need to see it in IMAX, because if you don't see it in IMAX, you haven't really seen the movie. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be a snob about that. If you don't see it in IMAX, you might as well not see it at all. I'm not serious about that, by the way. If you can't see it in IMAX, then please just see it however you can see it. But you definitely should try if you can. The reason I say that is because if by he I mean Nolan, uses the IMAX cameras to their fullest potential, and I love the way he's pushing the envelope forward for future filmmaking. I can't wait to see what other people do with these methods that he's creating. The movie is very very well shot. It's amazing. There's a lot of like great camera movement. It's real nerd stuff, but If you're looking for it, then you'll see it. And some of it, even if you're not looking for it, you'll still see it. Also, uh, interestingly written, I did read that there was a unique way that they wrote the script from the first person perspective, which I can't wait to read that. But it sounds interesting, and there was a lot of praise given to Cillian Murphy for his performance as the titular Oppenheimer because of the uniqueness of the script format. And after seeing his performance there, yeah, 100% deserved. Every time I looked into Cillian Murphy's eyes, I saw the torture of the character he was portraying. He did a fantastic job, as did everyone else around him. Christopher Nolan is one of those people that I love that he doesn't cast for the name, he casts for the character that he has in his mind. He's not getting these big names just because they're big names. He's getting them because they fit the character that he has in the movie. I've always loved that about his films, and I continue to love it here. Like I said earlier, this is definitely going to be the frat bro movie for the next few years, at least until Nolan puts out something as good as this. I would give it a 5 out of 5. There's just some parts of me that are just a little bit held back, and I'm leaning more towards a 4.5 out of 5. I still strongly recommend this to most people. You're gonna have to be a big fan of dramas because, man, I'm not joking when I say the men sitting, the 3 hour cut, because there's a lot of men and they do a lot of sitting, and it is 3 hours. So go see it for sure, but be prepared. Empty your bowels before you go in there because you're going to be locked in for quite a while. This next section is going to have a little bit of spoilers, so if you haven't seen it yet, get out of here. But if you have, then let's get into it. Now, I thought it was common knowledge that Oppenheimer was the man that made the atomic bomb. However, the more people that I talked to in my immediate circle, the more I realized that maybe it's not as common knowledge as I thought. And so this is going to be presenting to a lot of people a lot of new information. I know Robert Oppenheimer and I know the work that he did on the bomb. However, I'm not as much of a history buff to know all of what happened behind the scenes, and I don't know how to gauge the validity of what they displayed in the movie. That being said, just watching the deconstruction of the man's character after what he did for them, it was really sad, and to see the torture in his eyes after he had created the atomic bomb, just the look that he was able to give, it was heart-wrenching seeing the eyes of a man who knows what he's responsible for, who knows what he made and what it's capable of. It was hard. It was very hard to watch, and I can't even imagine what it must have been like to be the actual man, which is a testament to how good this movie is at conveying those emotions to the viewers. The movie is split into three distinct quote unquote acts. The first act, we learn about Oppenheimer, the man, the myth, the legend. That's kind of how it's built up, where we learn about the man in the beginning, and then the second act, so to speak, the myth of how he made Los Alamos and the work that they did there, and then the legend, which unfortunately was apparently, like I said, I'm not myself a history buff, torn to shreds after they no longer needed him, and he was warned that once they no longer needed him, that they would dispose of him. And it seems that they did. There were certain parts of it that just I felt actually physically ill. They were discussing where to drop the bomb that they had made, and one of the men who was in charge of like holding the list had crossed off Kyoto specifically because him and his wife honeymooned there, and he thought it was beautiful there. And that part, it really made me sick to think that this man is playing God with lives just because he so happens to have the power that someone else gave him. And you can see it in Oppenheimer's face. He realizes the part that he's played in this, and he wishes that he didn't. And it also does a good job of displaying that, as much as he would like to believe himself a victim, he was an active participant in most of the creation of this. It's like a mixture of guilt and regret. The ticking noise, like that loud noise that I think I'm just, this is just what I think. I think it was meant to sound like the ticking of a clock, counting down. When it was revealed to be the stomps of the people that were cheering for him after he had the stomps of the people that were cheering for him after the bomb had dropped. I thought that was super harrowing. That the bomb dropping really affected him to the point where he was scarred by the amount of recognition that he got from it. His walk away from that same assembly, I guess, where he's seeing the flashes of like the fallout damage, and when he steps through the body of that burnt person as he's trying to leave, it was it was just, man, this movie is so well put together. It's really good filmmaking. It's all really really good. It's all intentional. The movie's just it's just amazing. You definitely have to be ready to watch this kind of movie, which I thought I was. After seeing it, I realized maybe I shouldn't have watched Barbie earlier in the day, but I was committed to the Barbenheimer marathon, and I'm glad I did it. But it was a very very stark contrast going from one to the next. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. That's two very great movies. Again, so this one's going to be a strong 4.5 out of 5. This, once again, will be the bro movie of the next at least 5 years. It has decent potential to overtake like Inception or Interstellar and just become the new one, especially once more people start talking about the Christopher Nolan's love for the practical effect. I think it's going to be interesting. So, thumbs up if you liked it. Don't if you didn't. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.